So what we're going to be looking at today is students' engagement in teaching and learning through peer assessment. By the end of the session, students should be able to understand the peer feedback process, understand the difference between peer feedback and peer assessment, and also understand and consider how peer feedback and peer assessment can be used to encourage effective student learning and engagement. So when we think about the definition for peer feedback, it's seen as the use of learners as sources of information and interactions for each other in such a way that learners assume roles and responsibilities normally taken on by a tutor or a teacher. More recently, it's been defined as students' engagement in the process of providing, receiving, and sharing comments, suggestions for the improvement of their peers' work. Now, alternatively, peer assessment is defined as students grading the work or performance of their peers using relevant criteria, usually a rubric. When we think about peer assessment, students share in the responsibility of the grading experience, while peer feedback focuses more on detailed comments about an assessment without grades. Peer assessment connotes that there are grades involved. Recent research recommends that educators move toward more learning-oriented assessments, where students use both peer and self-feedback strategies. There's no clear way to assess the reliability of student judgment, and the literature suggests that students prefer to give peer feedback rather than awarding grades. Many students dislike being judged by their peers for summative grades. They distrust the grading process, and many are unwilling to make the time commitment. While there are valid complaints against peer assessment, there's evidence that it can lead toward increased student engagement. Now, when students become more engaged with learning outcomes and the standards necessary to complete an assignment, this can lead to higher performance standards and grades. One reason for engaging learners with peer feedback is that learning is likely to be extended from the private domain to the public domain. Students are able to critically reflect on their work, listen to and act on feedback while providing feedback for their peers. Over the past several decades, many challenges have been identified in the successful implementation of peer feedback activities in the classroom. Some of the challenges include a lack of students' ability to give useful, in-depth, clear feedback, uncertainty in giving feedback to peers, defensiveness, and these are all seen as inhibitors to effective feedback. In addition, students are uncertain about their peers' mistakes. They don't know what connotes a mistake, and they also express some indecision about hurting their friends' feelings. Now, when we move beyond the challenges, there are lots of benefits to peer feedback and peer assessment implementation. Some scholars found that participants in a two-way feedback mechanism showed improvements in writing and critical thinking abilities. They also found that peer collaboration increased student motivation. If used effectively, peer assessment and peer feedback can contribute to a learner's autonomy, generate more positive attitudes towards writing, reduce learners' anxiety, and increase confidence, foster students' critical, analytical, and evaluative skills, and provide opportunities for negotiation of meaning, collaborative learning, and the co-construction of knowledge. Now, there are three factors that contribute to a successful peer review activity. First, students need to have a clear understanding of what the review process is all about. They need to be briefed on the review process and what it constitutes. Secondly, students need to be provided with a rubric containing various aspects of the review process. And lastly, when writing their feedback, students need to focus on the positive. Being positive is not about covering up the bad things, but it's about showing their peers ways to improve the quality of the work they're reviewing. Some scholars suggest that positive feedback from students when they participate in the peer review process can lead to grade improvements. Now, when we look at case studies about increased engagement in peer assessment, it shows that some of the factors that helped in increasing student engagement were more explanatory and supportive tutor intervention and anonymity with the student response. Another study showed that better student involvement in the assessment process can lead to an authentic learning experience. Now, a case study by Ju and Lee highlighted that students through peer feedback get more engaged after seeing the value of the peer feedback, especially specific comments and discrete areas of their written accessible work. Most students also like the whole fact of participating in online peer assessment activities. While the method alone doesn't determine successful implementation of the peer review process, you find that more teachers are moving away from the conventional methods. They're moving towards things like wikis and Facebook and blogs and WhatsApp. The message here is to be creative in the method of delivery, because implementing the right delivery could ease students into the whole process, increasing the likelihood for the feedback process to be beneficial for students. The more students are involved in the peer feedback and assessment process, the more they develop the expertise to utilize sound judgment and assess their peers effectively. Orsman et al. Argues that peer involvement in assessment conducted in a non-threatening, collaborative atmosphere enables students to learn better because it prompts them to think more critically. They also suggest that students overcome their initial reluctance with time, experience, and support from their tutors.